Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining us today. We are thrilled to welcome you to our webinar, which will last for about an hour. Another great webinar, Educator Connect special webinar segment. My name is Yerkin Abdurrahimov, and I'll be your host for this session. I'm not alone. I'll be hosting this webinar along with my amazing colleagues, other community leaders from Central Asia, who will be working behind the scenes to ensure everything runs smoothly. I'd also like to introduce my colleague Nadira Kushbakova from Uzbekistan, who will be moderating the chat box throughout the session. Nadira will also be facilitating our Q&A session toward the end of the webinar. So please keep your questions coming as we go along. We'll try to do our best to answer as many questions as we can. And now, before we dive in, just a quick reminder to keep your microphones muted unless invited to speak, and feel free to use the chat to engage and connect with others. Now it's time to introduce our esteemed speaker, Zeynep Sulaimankulova. Zeynep Sulaimankulova is an experienced English teacher, TESOL certified trainer, and the coordinator of KG TESOL in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. She holds a Master of Arts in Teaching from the American University of Central Asia and brings over 20 years of teaching experience to the field. Currently, she teaches at the School Lyceum of Math and Physics Sciences, 61, and was a Fulbright T 2020 participant. Beyond the classroom, Zeynep is passionate about training teachers, enhancing students' digital skills, and incorporating creative teaching methods. She actively collaborates with educators worldwide to improve English language learning and strongly believes in making education fun, engaging, and meaningful. Welcome, dear Zeynep. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Erki. Thank you for introducing. Thank you for giving me a chance to share my ideas. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the session. I'm really excited and thrilled at one moment. So let's get started then. And the next half hour, 1 hour, you are going to be with us. Thank you. Okay.
Great. Yeah. Yes. Now you can share your presentation, dear Zeynep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you have seen my presentation. So let's get started then. So today the topic is think, write, reflect, effective strategies for generating ideas in writing. Okay, and before starting our session, I would like you to look for the following questions. Okay, this is a kind of warm-up questions, and there is no need to answer, just keep in your mind, or if you want to share, you can use chat box and you can write there your answers. Okay, so few quick questions. What happens in your mind when you read something interesting? How do you usually get your first ideas for writing? Why is it important to talk, connect, and analyze when working with a text? How does reflecting on a text, not just reading it, help you become a stronger writer? And I hope at the end of the session, you will have some kind of answers, or now it's a kind of brainstorming. Okay. And here, today we are going to explore powerful strategies that help students, and of course, us as the teachers, move from reading and writing to writing and reflecting. So our focus will be on speaking and sharing ideas. So I'm going to share 3 strategies: say something, connecting text to ourselves, other text, and the world, making connections, and organizing thinking deeply through close reading, 4-column chart. Okay, so let's get started from the first strategy, which is called say something strategy. Say something strategy is especially helpful for students who struggle with comprehension. This strategy helps students to understand what they read while they are reading, not just afterwards in the process. They pause, predict, question, comment, and connect. At the same time, they work in the group, and that is why collaboration is really important in while doing this kind of strategy. Why use this strategy? Because this strategy helps students practice metacognition, thinking about their thinking, which is a critical skill for becoming strong, independent readers. It engages students to collaborative reading to increase their comprehensions. It is a simple strategy that interrupts the students' reading of a text, giving them a chance to think about what they are reading. Okay, and here how it works. Students get into pairs or small groups. Teacher sets pause points, for example, after paragraph, page, or some kind of portion of the text. And students start saying something at each stop. Of course, it is really important before doing the strategy, you have to model as a teacher. Model how the strategy works. If possible, model with a colleague or a capable student. So you are going to take the text and divide them into the paragraph or into the passages. Read the text aloud and demonstrate. So, for example, you are starting to read the first passage. The variety of responses. After the reading, the students have to reflect about the passage. They can reflect in the way of questions, connections, predictions, clarifications, and etc. After modeling, clearly explain the rules and process to the students. Emphasize the importance of collaboration. There are some rules of say something. How are you going to introduce? And I have here prepared some kind of slides as an instruction. One student reads aloud while other listens and follow along. After reading, everyone has 3 minutes to write their thoughts about the passage. They can predict, ask questions, summarize, clarify confusion, make a connection, and after reading, share their ideas with the group. Then the next student read the next part of the passage. And this way, the students work in a group, they work like clockwise. So for example, in the group, if there are 4 students, each student, it depends how are you going to divide the text. So if it is divided into 4 passages, so everybody, every student has to read their portion of the text, then they share, they are right, and then they are share. So the process is going like this. So first of all, they read the main text, then they share, they write about their reflection about this passage, and then they are share. And then goes again, reading the main text, and again and again. Of course, for some students, it's very difficult to start at the beginning how to make predictions, how to ask questions. In this case, I use the following slide, and this slide is always on the screen when we have this something strategy to start. So sentence starters are really supportive tool for the students. For example, if the students want to predict, they can use the following sentence starters, like I predict that the next passage will be about because, so some kind of evidence can the students can share. Reading this part make me think that, or if they want to ask the question, they can ask the question about clarify something, some kind of words are not understandable and they are just want to clarify. Let me. Okay, make comments. This is good because this is hard because. Okay. Can you mute yourself, please?
Dear colleagues, please keep yourself muted. Please.
Unfortunately, I don't have this kind of to mute the person. Okay. Make a connection. This reminds me of something. This is similar to something. So there is a kind of connection. Or the students can do some kind of summarize after each passage. Please mute yourself, dear participants. Okay. And here I have prepared some example of my students using say something strategy. Some examples, and you can see that after reading a short passage, the students wrote whether the prediction, they clarify something, they summarize something, and you see that writing should be very long. It should be just a short reflection, maximum 3-5 sentences. Noted that the most important part is that to see the thinking of the student. They are reflecting and staying connecting to the text. Okay, and say something helps students. So there are some kind of benefits of say something strategy. Engage actively with the text by speaking and writing. Develop students' critical thinking skills through conversation and reflection. And collaborate with peers, sharing and refining ideas. It promotes students' voice and encourages active participation. Remember, when the students speak up, whether it's making prediction, asking questions, or summarizing, they start taking ownership of their learning. So this was the first strategy that I would like to introduce. If you have questions, you can ask right away or at the end of the session, because I am going to introduce 2 more strategies. Questions, answers, thoughts, comments? So far, no, yeah? Okay, so let's go to the second strategy. And before diving into the second strategy, again, some kind of questions I would like you to think about. How do you personally connect to what you read, to your own life, to other books, or to the world around you?
Yeah,
As readers,
you can answer
yes.
these questions in the chat box.
How do you personally connect to what you read, to your own life, to other books, or to the world around you? As readers, the more we connect, the deeper our comprehension becomes. And today we are going to explore one of the powerful strategy. It is called making connections. Okay, so it is really important to make connections what you have read with. Why? What are making connections? Connections are links that readers can make between what they are reading and what things they already know about. Why should we make connections? Good readers make connections to better understand what they are reading. And we have to teach our students to connect and to teach why are they reading. They have to know the purpose. How do readers make connections? Good readers use their own background knowledge and prior experience to make connections. And here are 3 types of connections that I would like to introduce you to make connection. This is text to self, text to text, and text to world. So text to self, when the reading reminds you of your own life. Text to text, when the reading reminds you of another book, story, or article. And text to world, when the reading connects to event, issues, or situation in the world around us. Okay, so let's look for each type and how it works with your students. When you read something, ask yourself, so text to text. Does this remind me of another book, story, movie, or even a song? Are the ideas have similar or different from something I have read or watched? Maybe the character reminds you of someone from another story. Making connections helps you deepen your understanding because you are building bridges between different things you have read or seen. Now let's move to the next one, text to self connections. Do these ideas in the text relate to my own life, ideas, or experience? Maybe it reminds you of something that happened to you personally. Or you might even agree or disagree what the character did based on your own experience. These kind of connections makes reading personal and emotional, and it brings the story closer to you. And the third one, finally, we have text-to-world connection. How does this text connect to the world around us that's happening now, in the past, or maybe even in the future? Maybe it reminds you of a real-world event, an issue, or something in science or history. This type of connection helps us think beyond ourselves and see how ideas fit into a bigger global picture. So this was this kind of theory, and now I would like you to practice with you some kind of how to make connections, okay? So for example, we have the following example of the passage. One day, Alex found a colorful seashell on the beach. It looked special. So Alex decided to learn more about seashells and discover why this one was unique. Let's see how we can work with the strategy. Text to text. So you can ask some kind of guiding question for from the students. Have you read another story where someone finds something interesting and wants to learn more about it, like Alex finding the seashell? So it is connected to text. Think about books, movies, or even cartoons where this happened. This is how you can relate one text to another. Next, text to self. Have you ever found something cool or different like a seashell or another item? How did you feel and what did you do with it? This personal connection helps us step into the character's shoe. And finally, let's make a text-to-world connection. People are always discovering interesting things in nature like new species, fossils, or even seashells. How do you think finding these things help us learn more about the world? Can you think of other things people might find and want to study? Making this connection expands our thinking beyond just the story itself. And on the next slide, I would love to share some example of my students writing using making connection strategies. As you look at their writing, notice how they are making different types of connections. Some are linking to text to their own experience, some are comparing it to other books or stories they know, and others are connecting the ideas to the world around them. Even just a few sentences of connection help students better understand and engage with the text. And over time, with the practice, their connection becomes deeper and deeper and more meaningful. Okay, so making connections helps students deepen comprehension by linking new information to their experiences, relate personally to the text through self-reflections, expand their thinking by connecting the text to other texts of the world. Okay, so by practicing these connections, students improve their comprehension and become more thoughtful and analytical readers. Okay, so I have done with the second strategy. And now we go to the next strategy. And if you have some questions about this strategy, please use chat box, write down, and at the end of the session, I'm happy to answer. Again, before diving into the next strategy, I would like to look at the following questions. Have you ever read something quickly and later realized you missed some important details?
Dear participants, you can write your answers in the chat box. And please keep in mind you can ask questions to the presenter and we will address them later in a Q&A session.
Okay. Now let's move to the third strategy. It is called 4-column chart for close reading. This is a powerful tool that helps students read more carefully and thoroughly. Okay? Four-column chart for close reading has the following structure. This is a tool for analyzing the text deeply, and students organize thinking into 4 columns. So you see, I have already done 4 columns, and my students use this kind of a worksheet. The first column, this is interesting. It means it's interesting. We have also, I have used some kind of symbols. Interesting, important, I'm unsure, or I have a questions, and this reminds me of something. This kind of 4-column chart for close reading helps readers slow down and think critically. Okay. Okay, so in the beginning, I mentioned that I use some kind of symbols. Why use symbols? Because it is quick, student-friendly, and accessible for all levels. It also helps students to build metacognition, as I mentioned, thinking about their thinking, and makes it easier to organize ideas when it's time for discussion or writing. Okay, so let's see how it works. And here I have again prepared some kind of practice for you and how it works, just to show in practice. Here is short passage, and we will work with it. Listen carefully and notice which parts spark your thinking. Sophie wandered deeper into the forest until she noticed a shimmer of golden leaves ahead. Curious, she tiptoed closer and found a hidden path twisting through the trees. The deeper she went, the louder a soft humming sound became. Behind an ancient oak, something sparkled in the sunlight. First, let's think about what is interesting. And here I have here you can ask from the students some kind of guiding questions. What details made the story feel magical or exciting? Why do you think the golden leaves were described so carefully? Now, what is important in this passage? Why might the sound behind oak tree be important? And how does Sophie finding the hidden path move the story forward? Let's wonder about the story, asking the questions. What could be making the humming sound? And what would you do if you heard a strange noise? And finally, does this story remind you of anything? Have you ever found a secret or surprising place? Does this story remind you of a book or a movie? And here, what a 4-column chart could look like, because we just took only a passage, yeah? So for the interesting guiding question, it helps students to answer. So interesting, golden leaves shining, important, humming sound behind oak, wonder, or I'm interested in what's making the noise, and reminds me Narnia when Lucy finds the wardrobe. In this slide, the next 4 slides, I have prepared for you general questions that you can start implementing this 4-column chart strategy. Okay, for the interesting part, for the interesting column, you can ask the following questions for any kind of passage. What caught your attention and which word, idea, or detail stands out to you? So the students have to analyze, and they have to scan the passage, and they have to find some kind of detail. Because this is really important to find the keyword, the key idea of the passage. Another question, this is concerning to importance. What seems most important in this part of the text while reading the next passage, perhaps? Why do you think the author included this? Then the questions of wonder or I'm unsure, I have a questions. Is there anything confusing or unclear? And the students can maybe them phrases or idioms or some kind of words are not clear for them, or even the sentences itself. And what do you wonder about this word, idea, or event? How it is connected? And the last one, the last column, number 4, this is reminds me. Does this connect to something you already know? Does it remind you of your own life, another text, or something happening in the world? Okay, and here we have some kind of benefits of this strategy. First of all, it promotes detailed thinking through. So the students start noticing to the details, what stands out. Also, all the time when they're reading, they are searching for the information, wondering what questions arise, because they already know that they have this column and they have to ask the questions to ask some kind of clarifications or just tell about the word or the idea. And the last one, connecting, linking ideas to personal experience or the world. So it encourages students to read closely and reflect deeply about what they are reading. Okay, so these were the 4 strategies or 3 strategies that I would like to share in today's session, that it is connected to the making connections. Students have to analyze deeper thinking while reading, not sometimes after reading, during reading, post-reading. So all these processes are included in these 2 strategies. So it depends according to your level of the students and how are you going to use. So far, I've done Irkin, and if we have questions,
Wow,
welcome.
great. Yes, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, dear Zeynep. That was amazing. Great presentation. Now,
you.
what do we have in the chat box, dear Nadra? Could you please read comments, and if there are any questions, we can address these questions to the presenter. Nadra, are you with us?
Oh, yes, well, I think our colleagues haven't sent their answers so far.
Any comments? Any comments?
They sang, they said thanks, great strategies. And they want to share the presentation of this webinar.
Great. If it is possible, Zeynep, could you please share your presentation in the chat box?
Okay, let me see. It takes some time. Okay, I can share, no problem. Let me see. Okay. So I will send it to the chat box.
Svetlana says it's good to see the practical strategies and results of our work. Thanks a bunch. And the Brulsun says thanks a lot. And the Dinara Abdibaitova says want to thank. Thank you for sharing.
These are great comments.
Thank you very much.
Kanike Sadikova says, looking forward to applying these strategies to my writing classes. And Aigul says, thanks for sharing great tips. And Umut says, thank you, Zeynep Ece. Gulmayram says, thank you. And Aigul says, reading is always useful.
Great. After viewing the Zeynep's presentation, you can ask questions by following our Facebook page, and Zeynep is there, so she will answer your questions, no doubt.
And Ainura says great. And Ainura says great strategies, Zeynep. Aidana, thanks a lot. iPhone, Burma. I screen all strategies and write. Great.
Yeah,
Yes,
a
Gulruh,
lot of thanks to
I
you.
said, well
Zeynep.
done. We are always proud of you. And Abdulkhalik says, thanks for sharing your experience. And Jamal Atabayeva, thank you, Zeynep Ece.
You're welcome.
Yes, Kenshebu Osmanova. Thank you, Zeynep.
You're welcome.
Nurzada,
A lot of thanks.
great person is always great. Yes. Aysulu, huge thanks. Rakat, thank you, Zeynep. Nurzada, Zeynep, thanks. Aygul Kaizem, I will try to use them at my teaching. Aynura Saparbayeva, huge thanks. Yes, Zeynep, it
Great.
was great session.
Great. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
everything-
Thank
Yes,
you.
sorry. Sorry for interrupting. Everything depends how are you going to implement it. First of all, it is really important to model. Start from the step. You are not going to implement everything immediately. So if you start, for example, for the 8th grade, you are starting using the strategy, say something. For the 9th grade, you can take text to self, text to world, text to text. Yes, because you cannot, it will be very confusing for the students, you see, because each strategy, they are a little bit closer to the meaning. So this is really important to divide between them. Say something, this is very start. It is very nice to start reflecting and analyzing while reading. Because usually at schools we just say, okay, so this is your home task, read the text and do some kind of comprehension questions. But reading, it is more than just comprehending the ideas and so on. So if you start, please, first of all, I just recommend you do not do it in the groups because the students are not, how to say, they are not used to it. Start doing yourself. So you read the first passage and the students start analyzing and writing at least 2 sentences. Start from the 2 sentences, from 3 sentences. And when the students get used, you are already divide them in the groups like I do because the students, they just come. They see that we are going to have say something. They have the text on their desks, and they start working in a group of 4. They know that the person who starts reading, this person will share, and they work in the clockwise. And they have timekeeper who follow the time. And this way just goes with the 8th grade. With the 9th grade, you have text to text, text to self, making connections. And the 4-column chart, it works for all levels. So the first start is to start from one strategy and starting from the first step, not just putting everything into one basket because it won't work then.
Great. Our participant Aynura is raising her hand. Aynura, would you like to ask a question? Yeah, I understand. Aynura, you can unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry,
Great.
excuse me. Yes. I just want to thank Zeynep and to remind everyone that reading is really a boring activity for students. And me as a teacher, I don't like to give reading tasks to students too, because I didn't know which strategies to use and how to make the lessons of reading more interesting. Because most of students, I noticed that most of them read for, they don't read for comprehension. And using all these strategies, I think it's very interesting, Zeynep. And using all these strategies, first students will be engaged, the lesson will be not boring. And when we will get used to use these strategies, reading lessons will be more interesting. So just we have to implement and work on the work on the lesson plan and try to implement all these lessons. So I think that first it will be a bit complicated, but using it day by day will be interesting as for the teacher and for students. Again, Zeynep, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Aynura. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Aynura, for sharing your thoughts. There is a question, Nadra. Could you please address this question to Zeynep?
Yes, we have question from Umut. How will you explain these strategies to your students? Will you use your own language or English?
Okay.
Great question, Umut. Thank you.
Thank you, Umut, for your questions. It depends on the level of your students and what are you going to introduce. Usually, I introduce in the English because this is the English language and the students have to understand in English. We have, you can use the slides, and in the slides you can give short, clear, according to your level students, language and explanation step by step. If your explanation will be oral, for some students it will be very difficult. So whenever I introduce any kind of strategy or start modeling, I put all the instructions and rules on the board. Make sure that all the students can understand. I seek questions, whether they understand or not, and then we start practicing. The most important point that I would like also to pay attention, because usually teachers pay attention mostly for the grammar, how the students are writing, and so on. This way, we do some kind of obstacles for the students to make them speak. For example, my students are not afraid of speaking because I don't pay attention for the grammar. And I say, okay, the main point in reading here, because we don't have a kind of grammatical, of course, you have to follow some grammar. But the main point is just express yourself, right place your opinion, and so on. And also, I use this kind of strategy because when you start reading, the students are lack of words, yeah, and they can lose their immediate thought that they want to share. And I say them, okay, no problem. You write in English, and if some kind of word comes into your mind and you don't know the translation, don't stop. Write down in Russian or in Kyrgyz language, and then go on in English again. And when they start sharing in the group, the peers who are around them, they help their peers with the translation. So the students start reading using, for example, you start reading in English, and there is one word Russian, and the other help him, and he just writes, and this kind of collaborative work among the group happens. So that is why, please do not stop students, of checking this grammar, and it will be very overwhelming for the student, because at the same time they have to keep in mind that they have to write in a grammatically right way, to follow their spelling, and so on. Yes, I know that this is also important part of it, but not so very strict, not to be very strict. And my students know whenever they have this group work and they start sharing their opinion, yeah, they will get an excellent mark. Because how it is, for example, how do I do? This is a kind of technology time at the moment, yeah? And all students, they have their phones. We have our Telegram group, and there they have their recording. They put their telephone on the recording, and the process is going in the group. I am just circulating around the group and looking how groups is working. And then they are sending me this recording, while checking their, parts of their expression, part of their writing. At the same time, I put the audio and listen how they read, in what way they read, because I am also checking their reading process. And I say, okay, so be very attentive. How are you reading, and how are you reading, and in what manner? Because I'm not only going to assess your part of writing, but I will also assess your reading and how you were collaborating and working in the group. So that is why it is really important how are you as a teacher is going to organize. In my case, it works this way. And my students know that there is no good opinion, not bad opinion. It is only different opinion. And that is why they know what kind of opinion they have, they will be appreciated.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I
We
have some announcements here. I have some announcements.
we have a question. Yes.
Oh,
The question from Kanike Sudekova: what if the mistakes are really gross? Do you correct them in this case?
I would like to clarify, what does it mean if the mistakes are really gross? What do you mean by saying that? How important, in what level is it important for you as a teacher? You decide. For example, it depends because the text is not come up in the book. Yeah, there is the whole unit before coming this text, and this text is connected with some kind of grammar. Agree? So of course they have to follow the grammar which is given in the unit, but not very, how to say, strict to be. It depends how are you going to organize this process and what are you looking for. You as a teacher decide, okay, for example, if you have 2 mistakes, it's okay. So, but if you have 3 or 4 mistakes, then you will be assessed, yeah? And then you will have a 1 point minus or something else. So you decide as a teacher. I hope I have answered for your questions. If not, you can clarify in the chat box, or you can just unmute yourself and ask.
Great, great questions. Thank you, Zeynep, for this great presentation. Okay, there are a lot of thanks in the chat box. Let me make some announcements, dear colleagues. Okay, webinars in April. We are going to wrap up the month of April with a guest expert webinar with amazing speaker Mubarak Hazratkulova from Uzbekistan, who is sharing her expertise on the topic of assessment and feedback. We have 3 webinars in May, amazing webinars. First, for the segment of Open Globe Insights, we have the speaker Fajaruddin Akbar from Indonesia, who will present on exploiting generative AI, creating personalized lesson materials, a practical and exciting session for any teachers wanting to personalize their instruction using generative AI. Then on May 26, join us for another special webinar featuring Jumadullah Hayrullah, who will bring fresh energy with fun icebreakers in English classes. This session will be packed with creative ideas to kick off your lessons with joy and connection. And finally, we wrap up the month with our May guest expert, Burulsuna Ilchiva from Kyrgyzstan, presenting on instructional methods and classroom techniques, cognitive approaches, a deep dive into effective and brain-friendly teaching practices. And remember, dear participants, you too can be part of these exciting segments. Applications are open, so you can apply for November and December months. So if you have any ideas, experience, and strategy to share, start preparing now. And don't forget to follow our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated, catch replays, and connect with our vibrant teaching community. Let's learn, grow, and inspire together. Okay, that was great, amazing session with Zeynep Sulaimankulova. Thank you, Zeynep. You've done a great job. Hope to see you again, maybe next year. Yeah, I know this is not your last chance to present for our community. Dear participants, thank you very much for joining. Thank you, dear Nadra, for moderating the chat and facilitating the Q&A session. So I'm going to see you next week with our guest expert webinar with Mubarak Hazratkulova from Uzbekistan. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Zeynep.